going on, Shane?
Not much. You?
God damn it. You always come in mute when you first come in. Fucking Shane. Every single time this fucking Canadian
Carry the show,
comes in.
Tim. It's your time to shine.
Every single time this Canadian comes in mute. So after a week off of the show, we have another show of Inside the Ice where we're going to be dissecting. Shane, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I don't know why that does that. It's so weird.
Every single time.
Yeah, that's so weird. I don't know why. Maybe it's my Canadian Wi-Fi, not as good as the US.
Nope, definitely not.
Yeah, so I guess you gave everyone the lowdown. Welcome to Inside the Ice. First show in 2 weeks. I apologize we weren't able to do it last week. We got kind of caught up in doing other stuff. But Tim, hockey's back.
Yep, hockey is back. A full week into the season. How are you feeling?
Oh, God, I love it. I love it. How are you feeling?
It's nice to have hockey back, but I'm interested. Like, the Bruins are not doing so hot. The Oilers are not doing so hot. But, hey, hockey's back, so I'll take it.
Yeah, hockey's back. And, I mean, does Boston still have no even strength goals?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow,
they're playing the Flyers right now, so.
That's crazy. The fact that Boston doesn't have any even strength goals for the first 3 games of their season just blows my mind.
I think 1-1-1, so.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really watched any Bruins games, to be honest with you, but I heard that you guys are really missing Krug on the blue line.
Yeah. We're definitely missing Krug, and we're definitely missing Pastrnak. Like, we just don't have that first line right now. We have no scoring. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily a problem on defense or goaltending because we've held teams to like 1 or 2 goals. Yeah. But when it comes to scoring, we can't get like 4 goals in a game. So like we're definitely hurting.
Yeah, and I think you guys were definitely missing Captain Chara for sure.
Yeah, he can go.
So yeah, the Bruins and the Oilers not doing too hot. Oilers got a win last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was not pretty by any means. The first 4 games, other than the 5-2 win against Vancouver, were god-awful. I don't even want to talk about those. But yeah, the Oilers are 2-3 right now. The Bruins are 1-1-1. Obviously, the Oilers are in the North Division with all the Canadian teams, and the Bruins in the East Division with a bunch of Metropolitan Division and some Atlantic Division rivals. How are you feeling about the standings, I guess, so far? Like, is every team through the first week kind of performing how you expected them to perform?
In the North Division, like, I'm kind of shocked that Montreal is doing what they're doing. I did not expect Montreal to be on top after week 1. But, like, you also have to think of this. A lot of teams have played between 3 and 5 games. There's 56 games in the season. Like, we're still extremely early in the season. Even if you wait the first 10 games of the season, that's not even 1/5 of the season. Like, there's still so many games to be played that, especially with no, like, a very short training camp, no preseason games, no exhibition games, there's teams that struggle in the first 10 to 15.
And I mean, that's totally kind of how I expected it to happen as well. You know, obviously with no preseason and only like doing training camp and then coming straight into the season, obviously teams aren't going to be, up to par because of those missing exhibition games. So, I mean, the first kind of 5-6 games for sure of the season, those are kind of the games for teams to start feeling stuff out. I mean, I have sole the reason why the Oilers, I guess, have played as bad as they have. I just firmly believe that it's because they didn't have those preseason games. There's a lot of new players on the team. A lot of guys still trying to gel with each other and get used to a new coaching system. So, I mean, I definitely have faith that my team can definitely perform to how they're supposed to perform. One of the best Canadian teams on paper, for sure.
Yeah. And when you look in that Canadian division, you have Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, like those teams that are expected to be in the playoffs, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Ottawa's kind of Ottawa right now. Like they're 1-1-1, 7th place in the North Division. Toronto 3-2 at first in the North Division. Again, they lost 3-1 to the Oilers last night. And another team, I hate to say it, that has been looking really good is the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, as much as you would hate to say it, yeah, the Flames are looking pretty good. There's just, I feel like there's a few teams in each division that have shown up these first couple games, and to wait it out and see, like, is this just like the first 5 to 10 games of the season where like random shit happens?
Yeah.
Or are these teams actually going to be? Because Montreal make a lot of moves in the offseason where they could be a decent team.
Yeah.
They have teams, like you said, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg, that like only 4 teams in that division are going to make the playoffs. So there's going to be good teams that don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, another thing too that I really want to bring up because I want to hear your thoughts on this. How about the New Jersey Devils through their first 3 games?
Dude,
who would have thought that? Not me.
I would have never imagined that, but like, who knows? I'm very interested to see what the first 10 to 15 games bring. And we did play them back to back, and we went to extra time both times. 1-1, lost 1. Yeah. Like I would not have imagined having to even go to overtime either game against the Devils.
But I mean, like the Devils were kind of in a crappy situation to begin with because they got Corey Crawford in the offseason and they got signed him as a free agent, and fine, the Devils had their goalie, everything was good, and then Corey Crawford goes and retires before the start of the season. Now the Devils are out another goalie, so now they're looking at Mackenzie Blackwood, and Mackenzie Blackwood has played all 3 games and he has shown up. He's been pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They beat the Rangers like 4-3, and the Rangers had 50 shots on them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely crazy for sure. And the Buffalo Sabres doing Buffalo Sabres things again.
They had one good game.
Yeah.
Like they beat the Flyers 6-1 in Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel looking like they were connecting. And now 1-3. Like they're right back to the bottom. Like I don't know what it is with Buffalo. Maybe the Bills are taking too much success from them lately, but
yeah, and this kind of leads us into our first topic of the show here. Speaking of the Buffalo Sabres, like you said, they're 1-3 in their first 4 games. They're 8th and last in the East Division. But things could look up for the Buffalo Sabres for their next 2 games because their next 2 games are against the Washington Capitals. Now, any other time they play the Washington Capitals, you would think, oh, that's an easy win for Washington, or Washington's going to, destroy the Buffalo Sabres. But if you have been paying attention to NHL news, Washington Capitals recently got fined $100,000 by the NHL for breaching COVID-19 protocols when 4 players gathered in a hotel room after one of their games in Pittsburgh. And now those 4 players all tested positive and they're gone for 4 games. Those 4 players happen to be Alexander Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Dmitry Orlov, and Ilya Samsonov. 2 of their top forwards, 1 of their top defensemen, and their starting goalie.
That's detrimental to the Capitals right now. Honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, go ahead.
4 games without them, like, holy shit. Buffalo needs to at least win one of those games. If they don't win one of those games, then what they did in the offseason is nothing. But I'm more interested to see what are the Capitals' next 4 games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, this is not only a test for the Buffalo Sabres because Buffalo, I mean, it's 4 games into the season. There's still lots of time to turn it around. But, I mean, if you're going to win any game here, it has to be Washington missing their 4 top guys. And so not only is this a big 2 games for Buffalo, this is also a big 2 games for Washington to kind of see where the Capitals are without their starting goalie, their best defenseman, and their captain, and another top forward. So it's definitely going to be interesting, I guess, to watch those games and see kind of what Washington is made of and how they kind of respond to missing these 4 guys.
Who is the Capitals goalie right now?
After Samsonov, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I would say Lundqvist, but Lundqvist is gone. So, I mean, I have no idea who the Washington's Capitals backup goalie would be. I have the internet up here. I can take a look, but yeah, like I don't know how this is going to work for the Washington Capitals. It's going to be interesting to see for sure. And not only that, but after their 2 games against Buffalo, they have 2 games against the Islanders, and the Islanders are a great team.
Yeah.
Martin says Capitals could really use Henrik Lundqvist right now. I agree for sure. And another thing that was really interesting to me is that all 4 of those guys for the Capitals that tested positive and met are all from Russia.
Tim,
Yeah.
do you have a secret sponsorship with Bud Light I don't know about?
No.
You need a koozie.
Get that koozie, Tim.
I'll grab the goose.
So looking at the Washington Capitals roster here, it looks like their backup goalie is not listed. So it's going to be interesting to see if they pull someone from the taxi squad or what they're going to do here, because they do play Buffalo tomorrow night, so they do have time to kind of figure things out. But there you go, Tim. 1-0 Flyers against the Bruins.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that a lot.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure to see what Washington does. And like you said, these 4 games are going to be detrimental to the Capitals season here to see kind of how they perform without these 4 guys. Now, I don't see them winning 2 games against the Islanders without their 4 top guys. I'm still trying to do my research here to see who the Washington Capitals backup goalie would be. I do agree they could definitely use Lundqvist right now. Just an unfortunate happening there for the Capitals for sure.
I'm just looking at the standings right now, and who of the there's 8 teams in this division, and only 4 are going to make the playoffs. Who would you say right now could make the playoffs? Because they're just like the Canadian division that we just went over, there's going to be teams that are good that don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you're looking in this East division. I mean, Philly is probably obviously a no-brainer for me. They're going to make it. I would have to say the Islanders. Islanders, I mean, they do have Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz is an amazing coach. It showed last year when they went all the way to the conference finals. Boston is kind of a hit or miss for me. If they, get their act together and kind of group together as a team. I mean, it is only 3 games in for Boston, so there's lots of time to turn it around. But they need to start scoring even strength goals for one thing. If they don't do that, there's not a chance in hell they make playoffs.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now. But if they turn it around, Boston does have the guys. They once Pasternak comes back, they got their big line back together. Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand. Tighten up defensively for the Bruins, and I think they definitely have a shot at making the playoffs. The 4th one, I would say Washington, maybe. New Jersey has looked really well. So, I mean, they're kind of a wild card, dark horse for me right now. Pittsburgh, their first 2 games, they looked brutal against Philadelphia. Their last 2 games against Washington, they won in overtime both times. So Pittsburgh's starting to come together. They do have the 2nd most goals against in the league, though.
Yeah.
So that's kind of concerning to me.
What's interesting to me is in that division, New Jersey has the best win percentage.
Yeah, absolutely.
They aren't in first because they're a game behind Washington and Philly, but when it comes to win percentage, they are the best in the division. And
see, and the thing about New Jersey is
how long can they handle that? Like
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, yeah, the start and everything is good, but how can they maintain that? Because this is a team that, to be honest, like I'd be lucky if I could name 5 players on the Devils. I just don't follow them at all. They don't get hardly any air
yeah,
coverage up here in Western Canada where I am. So I'd be lucky if I could name 5 players on the Devils.
yeah,
But I mean, if they keep doing what they're doing, gelling as a team, and the thing for the Devils is they have to be able to maintain it. They're off to this good start. They're 2-0-1. They have to ride this momentum as long as they can and try to get as many wins as possible because I'm a firm believer that the way you start off the season determines how your season goes. And especially in a season where there was no preseason games, I feel like a good start is what you need, because if you can get a good start and gain leverage against all those teams that are struggling with the no preseason games or anything like that, then I think you're setting yourself up for success in the long run.
absolutely. Especially in a season like this, there's 56 games. That's like 20, like that's over 25 games less than a normal season.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
games are a lot more important. And if a team like New Jersey, who nobody expected to do anything, can steal some wins, and who knows what a shortened season will do in the playoffs,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So we're going to move to the Central Division now. Obviously, the Dallas Stars yet to play a game
Yeah.
after, I believe, 6 or 7 members of the team tested positive right before the season started. So look for the Dallas Stars to finally get things going soon. Their next game is against Nashville. There's no word on whether that game is still going to go or not yet. So Dallas still yet to play a game. Carolina, also in that Central Division, their games have been temporarily postponed after multiple members of the team tested positive as well. So they're off to a 2-1 start. Now, I think the biggest disappointment in this division is the Chicago Blackhawks, who have just not looked good at all.
But yeah, they've looked like complete shit, but they've also played Tampa twice.
Yeah.
And Kirby Doc is out.
Jonathan Taves is out.
Even there. Like, Malkin Subban is their goalie, I believe.
Yeah.
So what do you expect from the Chicago Blackhawks on top of playing the Stanley Cup champions back-to-back to start the season? Like, I don't expect much from this team at all this year at all.
And Tampa's looking good. They are looking very, very good.
They've only played 2 games, but they lit up Chicago both games.
Yeah, like 10 goals for and 3 goals against.
Yeah.
And I believe they're back in action either tonight or tomorrow night. I'm not sure. I think it's tomorrow night. Looks like tomorrow night. Oh no, sorry, they're playing right now. Columbus. They're losing 1-0 to Columbus right now, which is surprising to me for sure. Because Columbus, they're 6th in the division, 1-2-1. Obviously, they, like I said, it's early. Torts will whip them into shape real quick. But yeah, they're losing 1-0 to Columbus right now. And another thing that is really kind of unnoticed in this division, Florida Panthers are 2-0.
I mean, how many years has it been where the Florida Panthers are on the verge of being that wild card third team, So, they have Joe Quenneville as a coach. They have a solid team as a roster. It's just they're never going to sell an arena no matter what. I just think the team has a solid team right now where they're good enough to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
In each division, if 4 teams are being allowed into the playoffs, I don't see why they can't do it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now it looks like Tampa Bay, obviously. Chicago is pretty much a write-off. Dallas is so hard to tell right now because obviously they haven't played any games.
Yeah.
But Tampa, Carolina will probably make it. And Florida could definitely be there for sure. Martin says, with Chicago not going anywhere this season with their goalie situation, could you see Chicago trading Patrick Kane? No. Personally, no. I don't see it. There's no Taves right now, and there's no Kirby Doc. So Patrick Kane is basically the only superstar they have left on their team. So I don't see Patrick Kane going anywhere. One thing I do want to talk about, though, I'm not sure if you heard this, Tim. Okay, obviously, we're gonna go back to the Edmonton Boston thing here just for a second because I've heard rumors swirling around like crazy here. Ryan Nugent Hopkins of the Edmonton Oilers is a free agent this coming year, and he and his agent have said that he will be looking for a contract up to $7 million. Ken Holland, general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, said they probably will not pay Nugent Hopkins $7 million a year. In which case, Nugent Hopkins would test the free agent market. Now, there's also talks since the Oilers have a goalie situation here where Mikko Koskinen is basically the only goalie they have. Mike Smith is out for up to, I believe, 24 days or 10 games. He's on LTIR with an undetermined injury of some sort. So the Oilers have a goalie situation. Stuart Skinner is their AHL goalie. He has no NHL experience. The Oilers recently signed Troy Grosnick, who has AHL experience. Again, he's played in 2 NHL games. Again, not a really experienced NHL goaltender. There have been talks swirling up here that the Oilers are considering talking to the Bruins about a possible Nugent Hopkins and a draft pick for Tuukka Rask.
No.
Now, that's the thing. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if the Bruins would be willing to give up Rask because I'm not sure. I mean, do they still have Halak?
What?
Do the Bruins still have Halak?
Yeah, but he's older than Rask is.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's the thing. Would the Bruins be willing to give up?
Halak is definitely the backup to Rask, but Halak has been performing at the same level as Rask the past couple of years, which, in my opinion, has made them the best goalie duo in the league.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rask can be like weird here and there when it comes to certain things, but when it comes down to him leaving the bubble, he literally left the bubble because his daughter was being taken to the hospital in an ambulance.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a completely valid excuse. I would probably do the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah. So it wasn't just him like, oh, like I miss my family, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see why the Bruins would trade Rask. If the Bruins trade Rask and they're taking on such a bigger like
long-term hit, yeah.
Like I get that we're getting older. Bergeron's getting older. Marchand's getting older. Crunchy's getting older. Like we just walk to walk. But like we can't just be like, all right, Rask, see you later, and expect to be good. We're already struggling right now.
I mean, and my take on the whole thing is, as much as an Oilers fan as I would love to see Rask in Edmonton, because we do need a goaltender that's not Mikko Koskinen. You have to kind of look at it from both sides. Like, yeah, that's a trade that Edmonton would 100% be willing to make. I would trade Nugent Hopkins for Rask in a heartbeat. But you have to look at the Bruins' perspective of things. Like, if you're the general manager, Don Sweeney, you're kind of looking at, okay, if we would trade Rask for Nugent Hopkins, yeah, we get a former first overall pick who's a great forward. He would slot in well with, Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron, all those guys. But then you have to look at, okay, then we're down to Yaroslav Halak as our only goaltender. Then we have to go onto the market looking for a goaltender. Why would you want to do that, why would you want to give up your starting goalie, just to go and look for another goalie later? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it would make no sense for us to get rid of Rask. Mm-hmm. But you also have to take this into consideration. On top of those rumors, you have Seattle coming into the league next year.
Yeah, that's very true. I also forgot about that. I'm looking forward to the Kraken coming into the league and seeing what they can do. I forgot about that for sure.
So, who are we going to sign? Who are we going to protect? So, like, if he's already going to be a free agent, are we going to re-sign him, or are we just going to say screw it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting for sure. That was just a big rumor that was going around up here. Again, I don't believe them. I don't believe Boston would ever do that. But that's what was going on up here. Heather said, "What do you think of the Minnesota Wild. They're okay, 3-1. They're second place in the West Division.
I think it's a hot start. I think they're one of those teams where let's see where they are 10, 15 games down the road,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who did they play? I mean, they had 4 road games. I think they were in LA and Anaheim, I do believe. Which, I mean, LA's 8th and Anaheim's 6th. So, I mean, if that's the case, I don't really want to judge Minnesota until they play like the Vegas or the St. Louis or the Colorados of the division. But yeah, as for Minnesota, 3-1, definitely a good start. Like Tim said, I would wait 10, 15 games from now to kind of get a better view. Like that's the thing about the first 4 or 5 games of the season with no preseason. It's so hard to judge teams because teams for the first 4 or 5 games are starting to get their legs back, trying to gel together as a team.
Like,
so
this is their preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, in a sense, is their preseason.
Yeah, and yeah, Martin says we can't have Rask. We should have signed a goalie. Believe me, Martin, I know. I did my fair share of swearing at Ken Holland over that one for sure. Well, there's a good one, Tim. Would you give up DeBrusk?
It's not the first time I've heard that, but I feel like if you're giving up DeBrusk, you're giving up a huge future piece in the franchise. Like,
yeah.
You have a young group of guys that I would not get rid of because they've proven to be able to score points. And when you have an older core that's leaving, you can't just be like, all right, see ya, and we'll get rid of the young guys too. And hopefully we can trade it like the same value,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we're going to go back to that West Division now. Obviously, Vegas 4-0. I expected Vegas to do really well. Mark Stone, 7 points in those 4 games. The new captain of the Vegas Golden Knights, the first captain, mind you. Alex Pietrangelo, the Vegas Golden Knights got in the offseason. He scored his first goal last night. So, he's got his legs going on. Colorado Avalanche, 4th place. They're 2-1. Their only loss came in the first game of the season for them. They lost 4-1 to the Blues, and then turned around and absolutely obliterated the Blues 8-0 the next game.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm honestly surprised that Colorado is not higher in the standings, but like you're seeing teams have only played 3 games, so how much can they really do? But the fact that Colorado put 8 goals on St. Louis and got the shutout, that was incredible.
Yeah.
4 games into the season, Vegas has a goal differential of +9.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely shutting teams down.
Yeah, and Colorado's got +6 in 3 games. So I mean, if they play their 4th game and beat the team by 3, then I mean they got the exact same as Vegas, +9. But the biggest thing here is St. Louis. Through their first 4 games, they have a -5 goal differential. Obviously, that big 8-0 loss played a huge part in that. So, I'm a firm believer that teams do have bad games. That was an awful game for the Blues. So I wouldn't really look too far into that one. But, I mean, other than that, like the 3 California teams, San Jose, Anaheim, and LA, they're 5th, 6th, and 8th in the division. Arizona is 7th. Those 4 teams are kind of right where I expected them to be. I had Vegas, St. Louis, Colorado, and Minnesota making the playoffs in my predictions before the season. So, that's kind of where I expected everyone to be. I mean, the 3 California teams are all in a rebuild. Arizona is kind of in a rebuild too, especially after getting rid of Taylor Hall in the offseason. So, it's going to be the West Division, I think, as of right now, is the easiest to predict because I just don't see Arizona and the 3 California teams having what it takes to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Arizona for the past 5 years have been in that constant, like, maybe they'll make the wild card spot.
Yeah.
But when you have in that West Division, Vegas, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Colorado, I think those are definitely going to be the 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for some reason, I thought Colorado was going to be off to a better start, but we're only 4 games into the season, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Tim. So we are going to do our power rankings now. We have the 5 teams that have, through the first week of the NHL season, impressed you the most. And then 5 teams through the first week that have impressed you the least. So, Tim, what are the 5 teams, I guess, that have impressed you the most through the first week?
Vegas is obviously number 1 because they went 4-0 plus 9 goal differential. Yes, all 4 games were at home, but with no fans in the stands, how much does that really have to play?
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, they've only played 2 games, but they steamrolled Chicago, so you got to give them number 2.
Right.
Philadelphia, number 3. They went 3-1-0. They're plus 4. They have 15 goals for, 11 goals against. Washington, number 4. This is as of right now, with those 4 key players being ineligible for 4 games, they probably will drop.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's why these next 4 games are so crucial, because it, like we said at the start of the show, it defines who the Capitals are as a team.
Yeah. So they're 4 right now, and then Montreal has been a shocker to me. 2-0-2 in the first 4 games, plus 4 goal differential. Yeah. I mean, they're first in the Canadian division. You got to give them number 5 for top 5 right now.
And I mean, Montreal, absolutely. They looked really good against Edmonton. Whether that was just Montreal playing or looking good, or Edmonton playing like garbage, I think it was a little bit of both. But I mean, Montreal lost in a shootout to Toronto, their first game of the season, or I think that was overtime, actually, one or the other. And then they lost in overtime to Vancouver last night. So, I mean, Montreal definitely without a regulation loss still. I mean, 6 points in 4 games, nothing to be upset about with that showing for sure. And what's even more impressive is that the Canadians did all of that on the road out west. They have yet to play a home game. So, I mean, I
didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice that until you just said that. Holy shit.
they're all on the road.
So this is all on the road. This is all on the road.
All on the road, yeah. So I mean, Toronto, Edmonton, and Vancouver, they're all very offensively built teams. So if you can come out of those 4 games, I believe Montreal has one more game against Vancouver. Yeah, they do. Montreal plays one more game in Vancouver, and then they go home for a homestand. So, I mean, this next game against Vancouver, if they can find a way to win that, and you go 3-0-2 on this 5-game road trip to start the season, that is absolutely nothing to be upset about for the Canadians.
Oh, absolutely not. And like I said, they made a lot of, to me, it was late off-season moves, but I feel like this Canadiens team is going to be a threat.
Yeah, and Tyler Toffoli, a hat trick last night. That was one of the big signings that the Canadians did this offseason. They signed Tyler Toffoli from the Vancouver Canucks. So he got a hat trick, so he looks to be enjoying his new home for sure. There's a lot of other key guys too, like for Montreal. Gallagher has been playing unreal. Kotkaniemi has been playing good. And then there's just other key guys like Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie. Jeff Petrie has been playing phenomenal. I think he's got at least 1 point in all the games so far. So he is absolutely great. And like I said, this next game against Vancouver, if they can pull that out a win, they're sitting pretty, because then they go home. Not really that home ice means anything right now, because there's no fans in the stands anyways. But I mean, teams always, in my mind, play better in their home barn for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just something about going home, whether you have fans or not. You're home. You have games in your own arena that you're familiar with. So yeah, if Montreal can sneak out a win next against Vancouver, they're sitting pretty 100%.
So, what's your thought on Ottawa so far? They've only played 3 games, but they're 1-1-1. Do you think they're actually going to surprise people and make maybe 4th or 5th, or what do you think?
At the start of the season, I will admit I had Montreal finishing 7th, just because. No, I'm probably going to take a lot of heat for that, but Montreal I had finishing 7th because they had so many off-season additions. I weren't sure how they were going to fit in with the team. I wasn't sure really if Montreal would be able to compete with the other members of the team. As of right now, it looks like Montreal's playing awesome, so I don't see them finishing 7th at all. I see them snagging a playoff spot. Ottawa, I had finishing 6th. Now, I think 1-1-1 through the first 3 games. I mean, you got to be better than that. They're playing in a stacked North Division, and they're losing 4-0 to Winnipeg right now into the second period.
Yeah, well, guess what? The fucking Bruins are losing 2-0 to the Flyers right now.
2-0. I mean, honestly, I kind of expected that. Philadelphia is a great team. They're well coached. They're well built. Philly's a great team. But I mean, Boston plays them 8 times in this year. They have to find a way to solve the Flyers eventually.
Yeah, and we need to find a way to score goals eventually.
Yeah, I mean 2-0. I mean, yeah, you definitely can't win games not scoring goals for sure. So we're gonna do the out of town scoreboard right away after our 5 least impressive teams. So the 5 least impressive teams, I think it's in fairness between both me and you, Tim, that the absolute least impressive team has been Chicago, 0-3-1 over the course of their first 4 games. They have a -11 goal differential, 9 goals for, 20 against. That's the second most goals against in the league right now. Any guesses on who number 1 would be? Well, if you're looking at the standings, you'll know, I guess. It's Vancouver, believe it or not. Vancouver has the most goals against, 21.
Really?
21 goals against. Vancouver has the most. And then Chicago has the second most with 20. The most goals for right now, in case you guys were wondering, it looks like the most goals for with 17 is Montreal.
Of course, Montreal. So Vancouver with Holtby and net has the most goals against.
Yeah, even with Holtby and net, they have the most goals against, which is completely surprising to me. They have played 5 games, but I mean, they gave up 5 goals against Edmonton in the one game. They gave up 3 in the other game.
Their goal differential is -6, so it's not like they're scoring goals.
Yeah, and I mean, Montreal scored 5 goals last night.
Oof.
So yeah, like I don't know if it's Vancouver.
Some of these games to me are pretty weird. Like you'll see Philly lose to Buffalo 6-1, but then you'll see a game like 1-0, 2-0. It's crazy how the scoring is so sporadic these past couple of years.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Philadelphia lost to Buffalo 6-1. That blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. I did not expect Buffalo to even beat Philly, let alone beat them 6-1.
And then Philly went back in Buffalo the next night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Martin does say that's surprising to me that Vancouver has the most goals against. Figured Holtby would help in net, but I guess not. I mean, yeah, it is still early for the Canucks. Holtby's on a new team, playing in front of new defense. He played in front of Washington his entire life. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's a fact of Holtby struggling or if it's the Vancouver defense struggling. But yeah, definitely 21 goals against is definitely surprising. I would not have expected Vancouver to lead that category either.
No.
So Chicago is the least impressive team with 20 goals against, 0-3-1. They do play Detroit now for 2 games, I believe. Detroit is 2-2, which, I mean, to me, Detroit being 2-2, I mean, that shows me that the Steve Yzerman method is working in Detroit.
That's solid, because Detroit has been shit for years.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see Detroit get back to being, like, respectable, you know?
Mm-hmm. So would I, for sure. And I mean, Steve Yzerman, if anyone's going to do it, it's him, right?
Yeah. He built that Tampa Bay team. So
yeah.
if he can bring Tampa Bay from nothing to a Stanley Cup winning team, I don't see why he can't bring Detroit to a Stanley Cup winning team.
And I'm gonna just stop you here because I need to rant for a second about that Tampa Bay Lightning team. I mean, congrats to Tampa. I mean, obviously they had a great team. They won the cup fair and square. They deserved that cup. But one thing that really grinded my gears is that Julien Brisebois, the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, won GM of the Year. last year. Like, what did Brisebois do? He did nothing. Yzerman built that team.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you might as well just hand that Jack Adams award, or no, not Jack Adams. That's head coach. Whatever the award was for general manager, you might as well hand that to Steve Yzerman because he built that entire freaking team.
Yeah, he built that Tampa Bay team when they went to the Cup in 2015 and lost to Chicago.
Yeah.
Like,
So I mean,
he had built that team for years to win a Cup. So they finally did it, but he just wasn't a part of the team anymore. So he got no recognition for that, which sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, I do believe that Brisebois is a capable GM. Obviously, he is, or else he wouldn't have got hired. And I do believe he's doing a great job in Tampa. But I don't believe there was so many other general managers in the league last year, like Jim Nill, the GM of the Dallas Stars. You know what I mean? Or Lou Lamoriello. He was another deserving candidate for the Islanders. You know, there were so many other deserving GMs, in my opinion, that deserved that award. I don't think Brisebois deserved it because, like I said, Yzerman built that team. But anyways, that's going off topic. That's just me. I thought about that. I had to rant for a second. Going back to our 5 least impressive teams, Chicago obviously number 1, Buffalo number 2. Buffalo has not looked good. Like we said, they're 1-3. They had the one good game against Philadelphia. Other than that, they looked not good at all. Despite Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel actually putting up good numbers, seem to be working well together. Buffalo sits dead last in their division. Anaheim Ducks are number 3. Again, this is a team that I haven't watched at all this season. Normally, I follow them quite a bit because in a normal season, they're in the same division as the Oilers. But I haven't followed Anaheim this season. So they're 1-2-1 right now. Yeah. LA is also LA is one of 3 winless teams so far. The other 2 being Dallas, they haven't played a game, and Chicago is the other winless team. LA is 0-1-2. So they don't have a win through 3 games, so they were kind of not very impressive. And Columbus is number 5 on our list. Columbus, slow start, 1-2-1. Like I said, though, as well as many other teams, it kind of look to where they are 10, 15 games from now and go from there. It is still early, but Columbus has such a great season last year, and they've so far have not looked anything like last year.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But I agree. Look to them in 10 to 15 games because they're coached by a good coach. I don't expect much from Anaheim or LA. I feel like they're teams that for the next couple of years, they're at least going to be in the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
The most optimistic outcome of the Chicago Blackhawks this year was to be a wild card. But I think with the shortened season, Kirby Dach and Jonathan Toews being injured, that's just nearly impossible. By the time they come back, they're going to have to win almost every game to get into the playoffs.
For sure. Absolutely. So at the beginning of the show, Tim, we started talking about the New Jersey Devils and how unfortunate it was that Corey Crawford retired at the start of the season. And then we talked about Mackenzie Blackwood and how good he's looked for the Devils. Speaking of Mackenzie Blackwood, New Jersey Devils, I don't think seem to catch a break because Mackenzie Blackwood has just been added. He's been added among the latest players in the NHL to the COVID-19 list.
Yeah.
So now the Devils are without Mackenzie Blackwood, their goaltender that has carried them through the first 3 games. Other players that headline the COVID-19 list for today are 2 Detroit Red Wings players, Sam Gagner and John Merrill. And then Philadelphia Flyers defenseman Shane Gostisbehere was added to the COVID-19 list, as well as New York Islanders forward Josh Bailey.
Dude, I feel like this season is going to be so messed up.
It is, yeah. I mean, I do believe the NHL can do it. I mean, it's just like the NFL. Yeah. The NFL had like a whole bunch of guys that tested positive throughout the season. They had to do schedule changes, and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, if the NFL can do it and still have a full season and play the full playoffs, then the NHL can definitely do it. It just makes for a headache for scheduling and all that kind of stuff. But Yeah, I mean, you had to think this was going to happen. You couldn't just.
Yeah. Well, my
mean,
thing is like the NFL is like every Sunday you have football, every Monday you have Monday night football, every Thursday you have Thursday night football. If the NFL can adjust those games, then why the fuck can't the NHL just move some games every couple of nights, you know?
Well, that's the thing, right? And I mean, you look at it this way: you had to have seen this coming. You couldn't just expect the NHL to start up with teams traveling to other cities and not and have no positive cases. That's the thing. Like, you had to see this coming. I mean, I do believe the interdivisional games does help, because I mean this does prevent teams like on the East Coast, like Boston or New York, traveling to the West Coast like LA or San Jose, where COVID cases could be 4 times higher in California than they could be in Massachusetts, right? So I mean, I do think the interdivisional games does help in that respect, but at the same time, you had to see this coming. Like I said, you can't just start the NHL up and not expect positive cases. Canadian teams have been good, though. There hasn't been many players that have been affected by the COVID-19 in Canada, though.
Yeah, no, that's good. But like, I'm just interested to see when the 56 games are over, what like is the process for those Canadian teams coming to like the States to play the playoffs?
That's the
like,
thing, right?
Is there gonna still be a 2-week break?
That's the thing, right? Like, obviously they did that. The NHL did that with the North Division because of the Canadian-U.S. border still remaining closed. So that's the thing, right? So then you have these interdivisional playoffs where, you know, the top 4 in each division play. So 1 will play 4 and 2 will play 3, and then those 2 winners will play each other. So, I mean, for the first 2 rounds of playoffs, the Canadian teams are good, but then after that, when you have the conference finals, you're going to have a Canadian team traveling to U.S., so you're going to have them get over the border somehow. So do you have the team go and then have the 2-week quarantine period? Is that how that works? Because, I mean, the way it looks right now, the Canadian-U.S. border doesn't seem to be opening up anytime soon.
No, but I feel like you can't just stop the playoffs when that series needs to happen. Like, you can't just start the playoffs and be like, okay, this Canadian team needs to play this American team. Let's pause it for 2 weeks. I feel like if there's going to need to be a 2-week pause, regular season ends, 2-week pause, then the playoff starts.
Right. But at the same time, if you have the 2-week pause, then you're going to have teams traveling to the bubble. And I don't think players are going to want to do the bubble again for the playoffs.
No.
Is the only thing. So it's definitely something the NHL has to look at, because, I mean, I think the reason why they're doing this, like, the season goes till May. Playoffs, the first 2 rounds of playoffs will go into probably beginning to mid-June. So the NHL does have some time to figure it out. I think they're maybe hoping that there are some border restrictions lifted by the time these teams have to travel into another country. But the way it's looking right now, COVID cases in Canada are spiking again. I think COVID cases in the States are spiking again. So I'm not sure if the border's even anywhere close to opening up or what's going on there. But it's going to be interesting for sure.
Well, we still got like 55 games left to be played before then. So
yeah, so I mean, it's yeah, there's a lot of time on that aspect for sure. Bad news for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Joe Thornton out for an extended amount of time with what appears to be a broken wrist. Not sure if that's bad news or not, but I mean, Joe Thornton's 41 years old. He was quite active on the game last night against the Oilers. And more bad news, it looks like Austin Matthews is a game-time decision tomorrow after he left practice today not feeling well. So he will get a COVID test. And if he tests positive, that's extremely bad news for the Leafs.
The crazy thing is the hit that Joe Thornton took was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a brush against the boards, and if that broke his wrist, then that's crazy.
I mean, he's 41 years old. I mean, I'm pretty sure his bones aren't what they used to be.
Yeah, like, holy shit, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, with Matthews out, the Maple Leafs practice today as if Matthews will not be playing tomorrow. It looks like with Matthews out, Pierre Engvall will slot into the lineup for the Leafs, and then you'll have a whole bunch of line shuffles. You'll have Nylander moving on to the top line with Tavares and Hyman. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Leafs respond if Matthews is not feeling well, if he tests positive, how they respond to having Matthews out for 4 or 5 games while he recovers.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, we're going to do the out-of-town scoreboard. For those of you that are watching the show and not watching hockey right now, the live scoreboard right now, at the end of the second period, the Winnipeg Jets lead the Ottawa Senators 4-0. End of the second period, the Lightning are up 2-1 on Columbus, which earlier in the show we said Columbus was up 1-0. So Tampa scored 2 goals. They lead 2-1 at the end of the second. Philly up 2-0 on Boston at the end of the second. New York Islanders up 2-1 on the Devils at the end of the second. And that's it for live games right now. We have the Montreal Canadiens and Vancouver Canucks kicking off at 9:30 Eastern time. Colorado and LA play at 10 o'clock Eastern. And, of course, the Florida and Carolina game is postponed. So real quick, again, before we end the show, just a quick overview of the stats so far and the point leaders in the NHL. Mark Stone right now leading the NHL with 7 points. It looks like 2 goals and 5 assists. So Mark Stone at the top of the NHL stats right now. Travis Konechny. Sorry, go ahead.
Then we have a bunch of people with 6 points.
Yeah, like literally everyone else is 6. You have Travis Konechny, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Thomas Hertl, Connor McDavid, Jack Hughes, Jeff Petrie, Leon Draisaitl, and Taylor Hall, all with 6 points. What's really surprising to me, Jeff Petrie leads all defensemen in points.
Yeah.
With 6. He's been on fire. He's averaging more than a point per game right now, for sure. Obviously, it's going to be... Sorry, go ahead.
And +4, like plus
+4. Now, I know it's early. It's 5 games into the season. But if Jeff Petrie can keep this scoring thing up, like if he can score even 45, 50 points this season in a 56-game season, would it be too soon to say that Jeff Petrie gets in the conversation for a Norris Trophy? Because when you think of defensemen on the Montreal Canadiens, like I think Shea Weber. Yeah. I don't think of Jeff Petrie, right? Like Jeff Petrie, would he be in that conversation for a Norris Trophy? Because he's kind of not talked about a lot. You know what I mean? Like you think of Norris defensemen.
He's gonna need to, by like 3/4 of the season, be in the top 5 of plus-minus points and like playing time, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I feel like now when you go into the Norris conversation, it's the same guys over and over again. You got like Brent Burns, Victor Hedman, Roman Josi, all those guys.
I feel like if Montreal is also doing good, that's gonna help his case too, because it's gonna be like, oh, he's having a great year, hence Montreal is doing good for once.
Yeah, like if Montreal finishes 3rd, 4th in the league, in the division even, and Jeff Petrie finishes with 45, 50 points and a plus-minus of 10 or higher, then absolutely I would strongly consider Jeff Petrie for a Norris Trophy. But you'll also have to look at how well other defensemen in the other divisions are doing, because I mean, with the reputation that Victor Hedman and John Carlson and Roman Josi and all those guys have, you know, they're, in my mind, if they have decent seasons, they're going to be overlooked instead of Jeff Petrie because of their names, right?
The only thing is how good is Nashville going to be this year with a Norris Trophy winner is not going to be on a team that isn't a good team, you know?
Right. And I mean, if Nashville, that's the thing. Nashville's playing in a tough division. They're playing in the West no, sorry, not the West Division, the Central Division. So they have to compete with teams like Carolina, Tampa, Dallas, Florida. I mean, I do see Nashville possibly snagging maybe that 4th spot, depending on how good Dallas is. But if Roman Josi is going to be in the conversation for a Norris Trophy again, Nashville would have to make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like Nashville had their 2 years where they were filthy. They had that 1 year where they made it to the Cup, and that was an incredible run in the playoffs.
That was the year that they were against Pittsburgh in the final, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They swept Chicago in the first round, and then they beat St. Louis and Winnipeg, and then they played Pittsburgh in the finals and lost. And then the following year, they won the President's Trophy and then lost to St. Louis in the second round. And ever since then, they haven't been that dominant team. So I feel like they're definitely a team they had their 2 or 3 years of being really good, and now they're on their way out. So it's just going to be harder for Roman Josi to win the Norris.
Yeah, I mean, Hedman's going to be in the conversation again this year for sure, because Tampa is going to probably win the division. And, I mean, Hedman is a great defenseman. Depending on how Pietrangelo does with Vegas, I could see him maybe snagging a spot in the Norris conversation. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that division is going to be between Vegas and Colorado, honestly.
Yeah, and Colorado's found their groove again for sure after that opening loss to St. Louis. But yeah, Vegas and Colorado haven't played each other yet, obviously, but that's going to be must-watch hockey when Vegas plays Colorado.
Oh, absolutely.
We're out of time, guys. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Inside the Ice. We got a lot more hockey news and updates coming up for you next Thursday night. We're going to say goodbye and leave it to Elizabeth and Hunter and Francis with Behind the Basket coming up next.